Good. All right. Good morning, Maximilian. You hear me?
Hi, Rusty. Hi, Rusty. You are live.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. Sorry, I'm so late for those. So I'm happy to welcome you today on behalf of our consortium, through Cobra, for this workshop in this MedFit event. We participated 2 years ago to MedFit at the beginning of the project. When we launched it, 6 months after, we defined the objective at these times and where we want to converge, making a positioning with existing technology and innovation in the framework of robot-based MR technologies for diagnosis and treatment of localized cancer. After 2 years of development, we wanted to present you the advances related to the integrated design. Integrated design because this project is a product of multidisciplinary partners from different regions of the 2Cs. And today we want, of course, through this workshop to explain you the interest of this cooperation and the prototype that we realized nowadays, which is also in progress according to the different tests and development that we want to realize during 2021. So this workshop is divided in 3 parts. The first part will concern the introduction of our consortium and the progress in the development of the Cobra robot concept. The second part of this workshop, it's related to the online demonstration, our lab, where I am here in Lille. And the third part is booked for roundtable that we invited academic and industrial partners that they can share their expertise on subjects related to robotics and artificial intelligence in diagnosis and treatment of cancers. So thank you so much for your participations, even if it's virtual, but we are happy to welcome you during this workshop. So we can go ahead. So the context of Cobra project is related to the cancer fighting, all over the world. Knowing we are focusing on, we focused in this project on the prostate cancers, which is the second leading cause of death in the world. And we estimate that, by the horizon of 2040, or around 1.28 million of new cases be affected by cancers, and with increase of with around 400,000 deaths per year. So our position related to this context is to improve the online and to increase the time detection of the tumors, and to help in terms of treatment by using new technologies and devices related to the imaging. And the development of diagnosis systems help enough now today to provide new technologies for treatments and to be efficient, of course, in terms of from the patient's side, where we can reach with high accuracy the tumor, and we can adapt our treatment according to the change of the targets or the biological targets during the treatment. So in this project, we focused mainly on the concept of the brachytherapy. This is what we see here on this image. Conventionally, the brachytherapy concerns the insertion of needles, like what we see here, through a specific grid. The specific grid helps to guide the needles during the insertion from the perineal part side of the patient, and the needle positioning and the seeds placed in this needle that we want to guide and to place inside the tissue of the prostate are guided automatically from the images. Like here we see the ultrasound probe. This ultrasound probe gives the positioning of the needle inside the prostate and of course the seeds. So to limit the side effects and to improve the quality of the treatment for the patient, yeah, we wanted to develop through Cobra project concepts that we minimize the number of insertion of needles through the perineum side by using a minimum of insertions, let's say 1 to 2, that they can cover all the prostate volume. But we can use a robot guide which can have many degrees of freedom, allowing to make an oblique insertion. This is what we want to present you through this workshop. Yeah, so the organization of the AMAR robotized brachytherapy, because our imaging here is the AMAR, is defined in this graphic, where we have three phases. We can identify 3 phases: a pre-treatment phase, a treatment phase, and post-treatment phase. This workflow has been approved initially between our partners, coming from the medical staff and the physical or the radiophysicist. So the starting or the pre-treatment phase concerning the preparation or the setting of the images through the of the prostate in terms of scan, pre-scanning, contouring, and then preparing the dosimetric plan. Then from the dosimetric plan, we can generate the trajectory for the robot through a planning. Then we execute it. After that, we can adapt the treatment according to the feedback coming from the MR machine. Then we can make, of course, the on offline all the pre-treatment phase. That means the reporting and the maintenance of the equipment. Here we can see the distribution of our partners, like from the medical staff for almost the pre-treatment phase actions are coming from our medical staff, like here from Portsmouth University or Portsmouth Hospitals, NHS, from UK, and Centre Oscar Lombré from Lille, which is center specialized in cancer treatment. Okay, this part, of course, is supported also by our observer partners like yeah, Echo and Ziegler for the HDR and the MTT for the LDR. They provided, of course, solutions for a dosimetric plan that we want to adapt to our robotic concept. Okay, for the realization of the robot plan, the three partners are involved here: University of Portsmouth for the path generation. This one is used by TU Delft after to control their designed steerable needle, which will be guided by the robot guide developed by University of Leeds. For the same for the execution, the planning execution, and finally for the readjustment. Readjustment means that the target, the biological target, is moving or changing during the treatment, and we detect this from through the MR feedback machine, so we can readapt or readjust the trajectory planning according to the change for the position of the biological target. Okay, so the Maximilian, we can go through the next slide, please. Thank you. For the biopsy field, yeah, through this project, this Cobra project, we wanted to combine between the combine on the same robot diagnosis and treatment tasks. So for the diagnosis one, which concerns the biopsy or extraction of juices, we wanted to use this workflow that we have also a pre-treatment phase where we prepare the anatomical assessment. Then the robot can, through the MR machine, can be guided until the target, the biological target, which concerns by the tumor, predefined and through the pre-detected through the from the images, and we can make extraction with high accuracy of tissues from the tumor or in the region surrounding this tumor. Yes, like the previous slide, we can see the collaboration of different partners from industrial, from medical staff, and academic one. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Here globally, what we want to share with you today, the development of the AMAR robot guide, which is a robot used to host and guide two types of modules, like the LDR module for the treatment and biopsy module, and the same robot can be extended for HDR module. This is what we plan to do it for 2021. Today, we want to show you the combination of the MR robot guide with the LDR module and biopsy module. You can see here the contribution of each partner in developing and designing each module. This is from hardware point of view, which is the bottom side of this slide. For the highest slide, you can see all the software and the programs which are used to communicate with all the modules and to have at the end an integrated concept, not only a demonstrator. Yeah, that means here we want to integrate all the dose calculation, the detection and planification, also the simulation, which is a real-time simulation of the interaction between the robot and the biological tissue. Okay, we want to develop also monitoring system, and all this technology should be interfaced with existing softwares for dosimetric planning. Okay, Maximilian. Good. Now we go for yeah. I introduce you the partners of the project, which has been involved and contribute in one specific task um, of the robot concept. We start with real-time MR based ratios dose calculation. Yeah, here's Kevin, you hear us? Kevin, we don't hear you. Maximilian. Okay. I try to replace, yeah, Kevin. Kevin is a PhD student working on the topic of the dose calculation using artificial intelligence for which aim to optimize the time for dose planning using conventional solutions. The aim here, how we can, based on what it exists nowadays as those calculations, we want, yeah, Kevin and his supervisors want to create real-time learning and estimation of those calculation allowance to accelerate or optimize for the time of calculation, that at the end we can imagine how we can converge to adaptive dose calculation for brachytherapy or external radiotherapy. It can be transferred at the end. Yeah. So if we can optimize the time calculation of the dose, it is benefit after to make this adaptive dose calculation, where specifically we have there is changes on the targets during the treatment, for example, or displacement. Yeah, so the work of Kevin, yeah, was in getting first from the city, from the MR images, they convert them to the pseudo city, and from the pseudo city they develop his algorithms based on artificial intelligence, allowing to estimate the dose distribution of the treatment for radiation or through brachytherapy. And yeah, we actually this the results are interesting. We obtain interesting result here that we can test it on biological tissues through on animals by the mid of 2021. This is what I can say from this on this subject. Now I introduce the third partners of the project, which is University of Portsmouth, represented today by Professor Ashraf Labib and Professor Dylan Jones, where their main work are focused on optimized steerable needle trajectory calculation.
Rushdie, do you want me to present? I don't know what the agenda is here.
Yes, Sina, I prefer, yeah.
Sorry, I was waiting for you. Hi, I'm Sina Firuzi, and I work at the University of Portsmouth, and we have been working on the trajectory planning of the robotic brachytherapy method in the Cobra project. Now, the path that we have been designing is specific to the needle design, which at that time we believed was the final needle design for this project. The needle is being developed at the Delft University. It is comprised of a rigid outer tube, which remains straight or relatively straight, and a pre-bent inner tube, which is initially kept inside the outer tube, and once protruded, it will assume its pre-bent shape. And using this, and as well as the rotation of the outer tube, we can reach an area around the tip of the tube. This provides us with more access as well as correction for any error in the position of the tip of the needle. The curvature radius at the time that we were developing this algorithm was 27 millimeters, and the maximum lateral displacement is equal to the radius at that time. However, all of these are parameters which can be changed within the algorithm easily if there are changes in the design. Maximilian, can you please go to the next slide? So one of the main issues we have in brachytherapy is the avoidance of damage to the nerves. Now you can see on this MRI vision image that we have the NVBs on the two sides, if you can see on the left and the right, and the large oval shape in the center is a cross-section of the prostate. And the neurovascular bundles contain nerves, and often the needles used in traditional brachytherapy cause damage to the nerves, and among the side effects are erectile dysfunction and increased chances of incontinence. In order to solve this problem, we can use the new method. Next slide, please. On the right, you will see, let me start with the left. On the left, you'll see the trajectory of the needle in conventional brachytherapy. The needles are straight and they are inserted in straight horizontal paths. And they leave the needles, they leave the seeds where they are inserted. And as you can see, the path of the needle encompasses a large area, volume, and on the two sides there is the risk of encountering and causing damage to those nerves. Whereas on the right side, you see the new path planning method used in this project. So the insertion point is one point in the center, and there are a number of straight insertions at different angles. And then later on, it might not be very clear here. At some point along the path, the inner tube is pushed out, and that's where those curved lines are. And using this method, we can reduce the chances of causing any damage to the areas on the two sides. In addition to the fact that, as you can see, the area being punctured outside the prostate is confined to a rather small conic volume compared to the larger volume on the left. And this reduces the chances of bleeding, which could cause edema and deformation of the prostate, which negatively affects the accuracy of seed placements. Next slide, please. Maximilian.
Yes.
Okay, so sorry, I forgot that was the final slide on my side. If there are any questions at the end, I'll be happy to reply. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sina.
Okay, so in Delft, we slightly adapted the design of the needle Sina just presented. My name is Martijn de Vries. I'm a PhD researcher at the Delft University of Technology. And together with John van der Dobbelsteen, we developed the steerable needle. for LDR brachytherapy in the prostate. Next, please. So if we look at the conventional LDR procedure, where 15 to 25 straight needles are placed in the prostate, we see that there is often a lack of control, as you can see in the left image, and a lack of needle reach because some parts of the prostate are occluded, for instance, by the urethra, as we can see in the right picture, or for instance, sensitive tissue or anatomical structures that are in between the skin, the perineum, and the prostate. So we developed a steerable needle as a solution. Next, please. And this needle can be actively steered in all directions during the insertion to reach areas behind the urethra or ventral to the urethra and avoid intermediate structures or sensitive tissues, as you can see in the picture. So we can steer around these sensitive tissues to accurately target locations in the prostate. And the needle consists of a steerable inner needle and a compliant outer catheter. And the catheter follows the bending of the inner needle, and after placement, we can retract the inner needle, leaving behind a channel for radioactive seed placement. And we can have lateral needle steering up to 15 millimeters. And the needle is 1.7 millimeters outer diameter, and it's suitable for stranded and for loose radioactive seed placement. Next, please. So to give a small indication, we have some videos over here. So in the left video, we can see that there's distal tip steering. And over here, you can see that, can you play it again, please? That it will steer to the left, but actually we can steer in all directions. And on the right video, we can see that steering in a phantom, in a tissue phantom of gelatin, steering is possible as well. So when there's resistance. But for the next step, we want to insert the steerable needle in animal tissue, so ex vivo, to see what the reproducibility and the precision of the needle will be. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Helene Kalkoen from Demcon. I worked as a system engineer on the development of the biopsy module. So Demcon was responsible to develop an MRI safe biopsy module that would fit on the robot that's developed by the University of Lille to automatically acquire a biopsy. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of our current model, which will also be shown in a short demo later on. So we did a lot of research into achieving the right requirements to get a good biopsy and also to get to the right target for the biopsy. So we added some additional ranges of motion. We are using a custom pneumatic cylinder to fire the needle. And we have a needle firing mechanism built in. We only use a single actuator to fire the needle in two stages. So first the stylet, and after that the cannula. And also we use an MRI safe biopsy needle. And we've worked on a good interface to the robot of the University of Lille. So next slide, please. Yeah, so one of the main challenges was to get all of this in a compact design, because the space between the legs of the patient in an MRI scanner is quite limited. We also discussed this regarding our mechanical interface. We think we achieved a good compact design. We also had to look into a lot of MRI compatible materials, so definitely no magnetic materials and very limited use of metals. As I said before, we used a custom developed pneumatic cylinder because it's difficult to get one that's completely MRI safe. We did this in collaboration with Pesto. Furthermore, we did some adjustments in the ranges of motion because we need some steering in the needle. The needle tends to bend slightly when you insert it, so we wanted to be able to adjust it to still achieve the right location of biopsy. And additionally, we are working on a unique methodology that automatically removes the prostate core from the needle, which is currently not in the model we will show in the demonstration, but that's definitely something we are working on for the future. It looks very promising. So next slide. Yeah, here's an image of the model we made, which is a functional model, which will also be shown in the demonstration later on in combination with the robot by the University of Lille. So that was my presentation. I think we can go to the next slide and the next presenter.
Yes. Thank you, Ilan. The integrated robot guide has been developed at University of Lille according to the environment of MR, and the patient also positioned through in lithotomy, like what we see here on this figure. The robot guide, it's a robot with it's a parallel structure with 5 degrees of freedom that we will see here through the demonstrator. We can launch the demonstrator right now. I ask, yeah, Vincent will. We have before this, yeah, we speak rapidly on the phantom training module. I give you Tony to introduce this.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Palmer. I'm a consultant clinical scientist and head of medical physics at Portsmouth Hospital's University NHS Trust, working with my colleagues Wojciech Polak and Sarah Wilby, who are both clinical scientists, and urologist Dominic Hodgson and oncologist Yudre Nagar. Next, please. So Portsmouth Hospital's University NHS Trust is a large general hospital on the south coast of England. We're an experienced brachytherapy centre and have a very busy prostate biopsy service, one of the largest workloads of MRI fusion biopsy. Very brief presentation. These are some of the key areas that we've been involved with. One was to set the initial clinical requirements for the system, both in terms of brachytherapy and biopsy. And we're currently working to design a set of evaluation test objects and phantoms to establish the system performance. One of which is contributing to the design of a bio-inspired phantom presently. We've also provided clinical image data sets, and I think importantly, providing that clinical position, that expertise and opinion throughout the project. One of the final things we'll be doing is contributing to the evaluation of the end product and also training on the system. Next slide, please. So final slide, just a few examples of some of the phantoms we've been developing. On the left is a 3D printed anthropomorphic phantom, which is a physical simulation of patient treatment and biopsy, and also for use in training. One of the key bits of research we're working on is to evaluate on optimum tissue mimicking materials, because we need to simulate the mechanical properties of tissue in terms of needle implantation, imaging in terms of appearance on MRI, and also radiative, so we can actually measure the resulting dose distribution from the robot implant. And central and to the right, some examples of some QC phantoms that have been designed to evaluate how well we can actually detect the needle tip and seed deposition on MRI images for final testing of the product. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Christian Doyer, and in the project, we also provide a training module based on the 3D simulation. So on this training module, we are modeling the soft tissue. So the geometry is extracted from MRI and the biomechanical parameters from the literature. We create a finite element model to compute the global behavior of the tissue. The deformations are reported to the MRI to compute new images in real time, as you will see in the following video. But we also model the needle, which is based on FEM beam elements, and we optimize the discretization to have a real-time execution. We also model the interaction. So different type of forces are considered: puncture force, friction force, lateral force. The needle can be inserted anywhere inside the tissues, and coupling and reciprocal forces are computed with precision using complementarity constraint formulation. So next, please. So here you see a video. You see the initial image. Out of them, we create the geometrical model. And then we see that the needle insert the tissues. We can, so it creates deformations due to this insertion. If we model so here, if we move the needle, it moves the tissue, and you see the consequence on the image on the left. So you see that these deformations are reported on the initial MRI. So this can be used for both training and also testing the therapy. Thank you. Next presenter, maybe. So yeah. So the idea is that yeah, we can have a. Sorry, I didn't know this slide, but the idea is to use this to have a better diagnostic and higher chance of cellular patient and new therapeutic options. So if this can be used also with a patient-specific image to improve the procedure.
Thank you all. We are now moving to the live demonstration of the robot concept.
We present you now the robot guide. The robot guide concept for diagnosis and treatment of localized cancer developed in the framework of Cobra project. As you see here, we are in our lab environment, equipped here with a mock-up of 3 Tesla MR machine of Philips, which is one of our observer partner. And you can see here a mannequin, a human mannequin in lithotomy position, where the legs of this mannequin are supported by NORAS unilift system, which is also NORAS is one of our observer partner. And from this view, you can see our robot guide, which is an architecture of parallel robot with 5 degrees of freedom. This has been designed in respect with the workspace defined by what we see a perennial period. If you notice, for such technology, we don't have any guide system for the needle part. This robot is equipped with ultrasound, ultrasonic piezoelectric motors compatible to a 3 Tesla MR machine. And we have also an absolute position sensor placed here on the main axis, which drive 2 types of modules. You can see on the top of the robot the biopsy module developed by our partner Demcom that has been presented with just previously. And actually, you can see progressively how the system is controlled in with different angles. All the material you are seeing here has been tested in the inboard MR3 Tesla, where our challenge is to integrate and interoperate between different technologies that are at the same time compatible with high field imaging and don't disturb the images after, because we need the MR imaging. If you understand the objective of the project, we are exploiting the MR images for guiding the needle in order to make adaptive insertion. And you can see progressively the motion of the needles from different views. Here we have a progressive insertion through a phantom. This phantom is a phantom of bio-inspired prostate developed jointly with our teams, partners from Hospital of Portsmouth and INRIA. Now we can see also, because it's a mock-up, we can see the position of the overall system inside inboard. because there are less lights inside the bore. Yeah, it's for that we prefer to make the demonstration outside to be, yeah, but it is able to see exactly the motion of the robot. As I indicated before in our presentations, one of our objectives is to make a minimum insertion by using one or two only needle, and we use the mobility of the robot guide to make oblique insertions, like what we are actually see. Okay. So the same robot guide can be used for the treatment. Actually, it's equipped with the biopsy module. Use it for the diagnosis or the extraction of the of tissues, this is what we call the biopsy, localized biopsy. Now we will switch to the second part, that means the treatment. Yeah, but before explaining you or showing you the treatment, we explain you exactly what we did right now as tests through MR machines, real MR machines, and how the system, or how we validate the performance of the equipment in MR machine. So we tested through MR machine. Yeah, what you see here on the image on the top right is a robot in bore, the 3 Tesla MR machine. In this case, we developed the silicon phantom with the colleagues that you see on the top left. We stabilize the volume, the external volume of the phantom with agar-agar material. So this the feedback of the MR images are shown here in this 4 pictures with the different views, where we can see that the piezo-sonic ultrasound motor used to guide the 5 degrees of freedom and the Heidenheim numeric gene absolute encoders not give any artifact through in bore MR. We can see also the positions and the location of the needles inside the phantom without artifact. Of course, here we can identify the size of the BBIG seats that we used for different tests, and their location here inside the prostate phantom, and the dimension or the size of the artifact which describe the seats. Okay, now we switch again to the tasks related to the treatment, and for that, as you see, we changed the module of the biopsy by another module for the brachytherapy. This the innovation here on this module that we are using a steerable needle. The interest of using steerable needle for such treatment, it has an advantage to compensate the reachability to the biological target when the latter changes in their position during multiple insertion, like such inflammation or only space placement. So the same, the steerable needle is controlled from, as explained by our partner from TU Delft, from piezoelectric actuators, yeah, allowing to control the shape of the steerable needle. We can, yeah, we can see some, yeah, the control of this, of the global system. Here we see the longitudinal translation or longitudinal oblique translation. Of the biopsy module, and briefly the, sorry, not the biopsy module, it's brachytherapy module. And here the smooth skewing, which you can see. As you know, here we want with the steerable needle compensate yeah, small deviation of the tip of the needle from the localized target after the deformation of or the displacement of the organ. Finally, for the simulator, as actually, as you know, we have a mock-up here system. We don't have a real imaging because we are not in the hospital, we are in the laboratory. So with our partners from INRIA, yeah, a 3D simulator, real-time simulator of the prostate and the needle has been developed. That is what you see here, and the interaction between the needle and the organ tissue is also simulated. So our next development here is to link between the bio-inspired phantom, yet to this simulator in real time. That means at the end in the lab, even if you don't have real imaging feedback, we can have this emulated simulation coupled with the bio-inspired phantom in order to realize a closed loop or control for the overall brachytherapy treatment. Thank you so much. We finished here with demonstration. We can switch to the third part on the round table. Good. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And good morning, Claire, from your side. Yes. We are happy to welcome you today through this roundtable that we want to. We are happy to welcome you today through this roundtable that we want to share with you some results and to give also your expertise, your feedback about our actual developments and results through Cobra project. And we want also to we select for you some questions that we want to share your answers to the audience, which are mainly focused on your expertise. So during in this roundtable, we invited 5 participants, but only 4 are present. Unfortunately, the closest one, which is Dr. Jerome Benoit, is not available. Actually, he has an urgence to treat in his clinical. He's a doctor from of oncology for veterinary, and so I want to make rapidly a short presentation of the participants. I start with you, Klaus. Yeah, Dr. Klaus During from Marvis Tech. Could you introduce rapidly yourself, your company?
Okay, so I'm Klaus Düring, the CEO of the company Marvis Interventional in Germany. We have been invited to be an observer by Foschti. We met in person when it was still possible. Our focus is on MR-safe interventional devices with a primary focus on the MR-safe guide wires we have developed, CE marked, and preparing to bring them to the market, but also looking into catheter-based products, etc.
Okay, thank you so much. Then, Smik, could you introduce yourself? Smik Juk from Philips.
Hello, this is Jouke Smink. Nice to meet you. I'm the clinical scientist for cardiovascular and interventional MRI. And I've been working on interventional products for the last decade, more or less.
Good. Thank you so much. Then we have Sébastien Milchalag from BIBIG.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Sebastian from Eckert & Ziegler BIBIG. Our company is a provider and manufacturer of products for brachytherapy, so for LDR, but as well for HDR. And I am, as a product manager, mainly in charge for LDR.
Yes. Thank you, Sebastian. And finally, we have Professor Claire Marie Tempery from Harvard University.
Hi, everybody. My name is Claire, and I'm a radiologist from the Brigham Hospital here in Boston, part of Harvard Medical School. As a diagnostic radiologist, I have spent 20 years in prostate imaging and maybe 15 years in prostate interventions. Myself with Anthony D'Amico in radiation oncology started an MR-guided brachytherapy program over 15 years ago here at the Brigham. We performed over 500 MR-guided brachytherapy procedures in the GE Signa SP 0.5 Tesla MRI scanner. And then we changed to working in the Amigo suite using a Siemens 3 Tesla MRI scanner. And now we do less brachytherapy, but we have a full-time MR-guided transperineal biopsy program led by my colleague, Dr. Kamal Tonkali. So I have a lot of experience in this area, worked also working with Nobi Hatta and Junichi Takuda, who are both biomedical engineers and computer scientists, and the group at Johns Hopkins, led by Julian Orkita, the people also working through with Gabor Fichtinger and others on robotic enabling technologies for many years to bring together very similar ideas and concepts that you very nicely demonstrated during your demonstration on YouTube in the last hour. So thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claire. Also, we are happy to invite you. So yeah, to be efficient with this roundtable, we selected some questions for all of you, at least 2 questions for each partner that we want to share your answer or your feedback around that. Yeah, I start with you, Klaus. Yeah, for yeah, the question, yeah, it's for you. The first question is about the market demand. Yeah, what is the market demands for technology innovation in MR environment from you nowadays?
Yeah, okay. Well, will answer this question in respect to the, let's say, more flexible devices than the needles are. Of course, we are somehow related also learning what's going on with the needles, especially in terms of MR visibility. And of course, MR visibility is one of the two key aspects. What you, Claire, as a radiologist will expect is ideally to see it like you are used to from X-ray. And that was I would call it a mantra. It was a mantra when I took over this project many years ago and said, okay, I have no idea about it. I came in as a business person, not as a scientist. I have become or come back to be a scientist also in this respect. And I said, there's a poor physician. He's used to see some straight line, focused on a guide wire where we started with. And probably he or she wants to see a straight line again. And then we started in this way to have a continuous shaft marker. And that's something we see in the market. We see critical discussions about discrete markers. And maybe we have been lucky to start in this way and to enable something which is required by the physicians to have a clear visibility. And I heard it recently from a cardiologist. Yeah, ideally, I would like to have an X-ray image in MR. But this is not that simple. It would be something more for you, Jauke, on the imaging side. So this is the one aspect we hear. And the other aspect, of course, is the mechanical performance of any interventional product. It's the same for a guide wire, for a catheter, for a needle, for a mandrel. So if you have a product which is metal-free, which is not constructed from metal materials, it has different properties, mechanical properties. And if you work with stainless steel, you will never have a chance to reach these mechanical properties. But that's also what we see. Ideally, it should be like a stainless steel-based guide wire, braided catheter or needle, which is not achievable. So the conclusion out of this is there is a need to have good interventional products, whatever it is, which have good mechanical property, but which will be a little bit different so that the physicians have to adapt a little bit. And what we expect, in my personal opinion, is there can be slight, I would call it a weakness or slight differences, but it's better said it's a slight difference between a non-metallic, non-metal-based interventional device and a metal-based interventional device, because you have better visualization in the MR image and you know where you are. But these are clearly the two key demands we hear from the market.
Good. Thank you, Klaus. Yeah, for you, I wanted if you can answer to the audience this question related to the advances on medical devices for diagnosis and treatment of localized cancers. In general, according to Philips' experience, according to Philips.
Yeah, I see this question now for the first time. I'm not sure whether you provided those questions already in advance, and I missed it in my email.
Yeah.
Well, I'm of course representing a MRI manufacturer, so we're not really into devices ourselves when it comes to needles, although In Vivo is part of Philips and they do provide needles, but that's not something I know a lot about.
Here we are not speaking about In Vivo, etc. You know, the advances in terms of using MR for diagnosis, and also coupling MR and the accelerator for treatment, even for external radiation therapy.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer this question. What I can tell you is that within Philips, we have, of course, been active in this area for a long time. And at this moment, I'm working together with two main hospitals in Magdeburg in Germany and at the Mayo Clinic in the United States when it comes to prostate interventions. In the past, I've also worked with Utrecht University, who also developed a robot. And in my experience is that we are collaborating with these advanced research sites who use prototype equipment. But then at some point in time, it stops and people are always asking, when is it CE approved? When is it FDA approved? When can I use it into the clinic? And that's always a very difficult step. So that is some kind of development that I've experienced over the years. That coming to a certain stage is nice. But getting it into a real product, CE or FDA approved, it's really a next step.
Okay.
And I think it's also what others experience in their developments, like Klaus in his technology. That's always key in this. We have, of course, looked at the different areas. MRI-HIFU, MRI guided using the MRI as a 3D thermometer to guide treatment, also in the treatment of prostate cancer. We're looking at the combination of linear accelerators with MRI for the MR Linux system, which is now mostly used into the abdominal area, but I'm not sure what it could bring to other kinds of cancers. Yeah, that's kind of the view. Is that more or less answering your question?
Yes, globally, exactly. Yeah, that means yeah, more and more we are using for our for the diagnosis of cancer. So yeah, imaging devices like MR, and we are progressively converging to also using a combined imaging and or diagnosis and treatment solutions that we can integrate. This is my, I think my next question for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you summarize it like that, sometimes we have at one of my slides, we have this phrase: decide, guide, treat, and confirm. And that's decide is something that you have done already for a long time, using MRI to make the diagnosis. Yes. But we can now also use MRI to guide the treatment, to monitor the treatment, and also to confirm the treatment. So these are the four main topics: decide, guide, treat, and confirm, which I think also explains the richness and the value of MRI guided therapy in the future.
Good. Thank you so much. Sebastian, we have a question for you. Could you give a general overview about the evolution of brachytherapy treatment? Yeah, through.
I can at least try to.
According to your experience, yeah, according to your
yes, of course. So the brachytherapy itself for the treatment of prostate cancer, when it comes to LDR, is very well established as a treatment. So for, I would say, 30 or 20 years. And nowadays, when you look at the last years, normally it's used for the low risk prostate cancer group. So low risk, and then it started now as well to be used for the favorable intermediate risk group. So the initial intended group was extended, and more it's now as well used in combination with the external beam radiation to treat the high risk prostate cancer. So maybe that was one of the major steps over the last years. So the combination of the brachytherapy with the external beam radiation for high risk, and then it started. There's always the HDR and LDR brachytherapy discussion, and over the last year, HDR becomes more popular as a treatment for prostate cancer as well. And there are some difference in between these treatments, like the number of fractions needed to perform such a brachytherapy treatment. But I think HDR is more and more a topic for prostate cancer. That's as well a major change, I would say, over the last years. And then what we saw maybe in the last months or years is that there's a question if maybe brachytherapy can be used as a salvage treatment after external beam radiation. So if radiation therapy was used in a primary setting, and then we have a recurrence, or the patient has a recurrence. It now comes up the question if brachytherapy could be an option to treat this recurrence. And then, of course, we do have technical developments in brachytherapy field, like we all know that there is, after 4 and 6 weeks, you have a check, a post-operative check, and this is more and more done with MRI, for example. In the past, it was mainly done with CT, and more it's done by MRI. And as you mentioned earlier, in the diagnostic stage as well, MRI becomes more important, and therefore this project might solve the gap between before treatment and after treatment, and to use MRI as well as treatment for brachytherapy.
Thank you, Sébastien. Dear Claire, could you give the actual research progress for robot-based MR diagnosis treatment of localized tumor? What I mean here, the actual research, maybe if you have an idea about technology transfer also, about all this research.
So difficult questions you're asking us all.
Yes.
So the actual research progress. So it's a good question because there have been proposed robot devices for maybe 20 years now. I think if we look back at some from Johns Hopkins, we have MR-Bot and other actuated devices with piezoelectric and piezosonic motors. And one from more recently from the Solteria device with the transperineal as well, and some are transrectal. So none of them, of course, are in the clinic that I am aware of or have reached clearance by the FDA or device regulatory bodies in the US. And I don't know about CE mark in Europe. I apologize, I'm a little bit more focused on the American market, but there's a lot of steps to go. As you know, it's like the pipeline. You have to keep going through many stages to reach clearance. Once you even get FDA clearance in America, the next step is, of course, to get the insurance companies to pay for the system, which is not easy. And this is why I'm very impressed, because you're talking to a wide range of experts here. And this is critical because every step will require input and agreement that this is needed. And what does needed mean? Needed means that it's a medical need, of course, but then need by the users. And then you look at the competitive market and what is the competitors and what are other people going to do? What are the surgeons going to do? What are the other radiation people doing? What is happening in focal therapy? You know, there's such diversity for the competitive piece. That this is challenging. So to answer the research progress, I mean, I think one of the things which is always true for robotic enabling things is it starts with very big, complicated system, and then eventually comes maybe to a smaller system that's easier to use, because user-friendly, because big is scary to doctors. They don't like to have things they don't know how to fix quickly if they break. But you know, you can look at the other, step back and say, what is the most popular robotic system in healthcare today, or the most used? And of course, it's the Da Vinci. And Da Vinci's enormous, big footprint in an operating room, and yet it worked. It's a kind of a magic story, because it does not make sense how this became so popular. It did not have the data, the science is not there. It never was there, but yet now 80% of prostatectomies with this. So while people say one thing on one side of the mouth, they say another thing on the other side of the mouth. It's not so easy. But easy to use is very important. But the visualization, the MRI visualization, I think, is the most compelling story, because you can see not only the tumor, but as you carefully showed earlier, someone was discussing the neurovascular bundles. You can see everything you need to see. And this is impossible with any other imaging guidance technique. It's impossible with ultrasound, impossible with CT scan. So that's the most compelling thing. So don't ever forget, keep the images always available, always updated. And yes, Klaus, we like to see the needle, of course, like an X-ray, but it's not always essential to see every part of every bit of the needle and, you know, the trajectory planning. And I very much like the curve bend approach. I'd like to talk some more about that later, but this is enough for, hope I'm answering your question.
Okay, no, it's correct. Thank you, Claire. Yeah, it's clear. I come back to you, Klaus. Yeah, what for you, how, yeah, cooperative project can, let's Cobra can help SMEs in improving development and dissemination of their technology?
Yeah, of course. I think we discussed last time already.
Yes.
No good product without cooperation with all those experts from the different disciplines which are needed. If I go back to what I mentioned before, maybe I have been lucky in insisting on the design of the MR marker, and that we did it in this way. If we wouldn't have worked with clinicians, we wouldn't have added a tip marker.
Yes.
Because there was a representation like in X-ray. It was a nice long line. But we have slices of images now. We don't have fluoroscopy, so we have a challenge like in CT. So it's so important to learn step by step from those using the products which are under development, that you can early enough adjust where to go if your ideas A, B, C are good enough, which one is the best idea, which one is the best design you have to do. And if you end up in a product which is not useful, you believe it's a nice product, maybe a nice product, but it doesn't fulfill the requirements of the users, it doesn't help. And the user is not only a physician, especially in MRI-guided interventions. There are also the medical physicists, for instance. And I think in our business, we all are in here, it's less the patient. It's more the physician, it's the medical physicist, as I said, it's everybody involved in this procedure. And of course, it's about the workflow in the hospitals, and it's about costs. If you have a nice intervention which costs tenfold and delivers double the benefit, I doubt it will make it in the clinic. If you have it in the other way around, it costs double and delivers tenfold benefit, it's a self-running system.
Yeah.
So this needs to be investigated early enough. And of course, the same happens if there is one having a good success with a new device, with a new procedure, with a new technology in the clinic, he or she will tell the colleagues, look at that, it's interesting. And this, of course, helps disseminating the technologies.
Yes. Okay. No, thank you so much, Klaus, for your answer. Yeah. Juk, I have a second question for you. Yeah, it's related to the first one, but the idea here, what's the advantage nowadays to combine between, for medical, in medical device, two functionalities, one for diagnosis and one for treatment? Actually, we are more and more, I think the industrials are thinking about this specifically for the cancers, for example. What's the advantage here, even from medical staff or for industrials?
Yeah, this of course this question is key to our whole meeting of today, and this is what most of us are working on anyway, combining imaging and treatment, or diagnosis and treatment in one device. It's an easy question to ask, and not an easy question to implement. Also, not from a manufacturer point of view. The company where I work for is traditionally a diagnostic imaging company. We do some interventions in the cath lab, but Philips was always providing the cath lab, not the devices. And recently, we also see value of combining these things. For me personally, within MR, it has always been a challenge, and I don't see this very different at our competitors who have the same challenges as what I observe. So from a company standpoint, it's difficult to combine this, and for that we need projects like this that are able to combine, bring together different people from different companies, different universities, with different knowledges to strengthen each other, and that's what we do here. So to combine it, and it's also something that we recently have submitted into a grant proposal. What we now also see is different kind of treatments, people have to go to the hospital on one day to do a diagnostic scan and the next day to come back for the treatment. So that's already 2 times traveling to a hospital, which you would like to combine preferably in one setting. Also already for what I'm usually also emphasizing the fact is that if you do a CT scan before and then the next day you go to an X-ray or an ultrasound system to do the treatment and use the CT scan as an overlay, you're working with 2 different geometry systems that already create some difficulties in aligning these 2 technologies, these 2 modalities to each other. If you do everything into one device, combining diagnosis and treatment in one modality, that gives you the advantage that the patient has to travel only once. Roadmap scans, 3D scans are aligned. Real-time imaging can be used to monitor the treatment. So I see a lot of value in combining 2 functionalities, diagnosis and treatment. And that's why I have been working in this area for such a long time and continue to work in this area.
Okay. Thank you, Dirk. Sebastian, what are the performance of diagnosis of localized cancers, using high field, comparing to existing imaging devices?
You mean what are the advantages to use MRI instead of existing techniques like ultrasound or
exactly.
CT? I think that was mentioned by Mrs. Tempani, that with MRI, it's more clear that you can see everything, while it's really difficult on ultrasound, for example, to see the tumor tissue. I mean, you will be able to see the prostate tissue and you can do the treatment based on this information. But using MRI gives you the opportunity to see as well the tumor, and that brings you maybe to the step that you are able to do related to brachytherapy, to do a focus treatment. So only to treat the area of the tumor, because you know exactly where the tumor is located, the size of the tumor. And so I think that's maybe one advantage or the main advantage of MRI. And then I think it's, just a simple fact, it's more visible and makes it maybe more easy to treat or to use the brachytherapy. But of course, there are as well some difficulties inside, and that's why it's good that that you have such a project which might answer the questions or solve the problems which are there if you would like to use MRI for treatment.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian. I come back to you, Claire. I want to compare such like a collaborative project in US and here in Europe. Like I take the example of Cobra, which is a collaborative project that collaborate between different academic, industrial, and other type of partners like clusters, etc., from different region of Europe. This is the aim of the Interreg 2C programs. Is it for you such model interesting, of course, to develop some products or some technologies with relative high level of TRL? This is my question. And what is the comparative in US on such collaborative project?
So it's always interesting to collaborate and to see how various projects proceed in different countries and different healthcare environments. The US market is very different than healthcare systems in the UK or Europe. And so we are, of course, interested. The timing has been different. Of course, some things are allowed to happen in other parts of the world through clearance and through initial approvals with IDE earlier than in the US. So if you look at drug development inevitably with pharmaceutical company research happens outside the US before it happens in the US. And but the US is the biggest market and probably the largest profit for the company. So eventually it always comes through. So it's always interesting. There are many different models. My models that I have personally worked with are ones that are funded through things like external bodies like the National Institute of Health, the NIH. Then, of course, models where I do a direct collaboration with one company, and it's a clinical trial or something like that, a device development trial. So different models. And the industrial partnerships will usually enroll many sites, as you know, and be controlling the trials, which may be based in the US and outside the US. The NIH has a very specific, very nice mechanism for grant funding called an AIP, Academic Industrial Partnership, which is a well-funded NIH mechanism where you have a company, one or two, maybe even three companies, and one or two academic centers, and you make a proposal to the NIH. And this is a good one because they recognize the value of going through from the bench to the bedside and identifying the technology transfer steps in a formal mechanism. So there are many models, and I think you'll find many in the US. Somebody, I think from Philips, was talking about working with Mayo Clinic. I mean, you know all these things already. And you know how I think it's very important to do. So yes, I hope this answers it. It's a very big question.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Claire. So I have the last session of question for you, the last one. Yeah, we will be relatively late, but I try to go fast. Yeah, for Klaus, for you, how Cobra project can help disseminate the product of their observer? If you have any suggestions, according to our, how we can, what you can suggest for us, more investment in disseminating products of our observers, like you, like other observers. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a little bit commercial question, which is not
commercial, but it's helpful because without without your product and without other products of observer partners, of course, we couldn't make an advance. Yeah, in our case, we didn't reinvent what already exists.
Right. No, you can't invent everything you need during such a project. Yes. I think it's quite impressive what you are doing. It's quite a comprehensive approach. It's looking into workflows and whatever. We met because you asked for guide wires and let's say something which might become a manual at the very end. So for us, it's helpful to learn what is required. We provided to you the materials we have. At the very end, it might happen that there is a specific need for this application where you need a modified product, something we have discussed. So at the very end, it's for you, the benefit is to get access to devices, which may be in development phase, which may be on the market already. Usually it's, I believe, more in the development phase when you contact companies to become an observer. And the benefit for the observer for sure is to become more visibility in a field we haven't been in before. We haven't targeted this field. So it's a new option for us to step into brachytherapy. We have dealt with this and for sure we will go on in this. So at the very end, you will have scientific publications, you will talk to clinicians, and this is a benefit for an SME to expand the network and to get access to other clinics where a small company doesn't have the capacities to contact everyone, let's say, within a short time. And that's something I think could be helpful for us at Marvis.
Thank you so much, Klaus. For also for your help in through by using your catheters, of course. We gain a lot of time. For you, Juk. This is another question asked by the auditors related to how we can evaluate the benefit of new technology and artificial intelligence tools in the diagnosis of localized cancers of tissues, like in your case, the imaging, how the diagnosis from MR imaging can help now actually the end user for detecting and localizing some cases of tumors. By using, of course, we can combine the imaging devices with artificial intelligence tools. Actually, this topic is more and more used nowadays in the community of in medical sector in terms of improving or to make decision making better for the the end user. If you have any any comments on that, we will be happy to.
Yeah, I can comment on this. If you're asking how do you evaluate the benefit of new technology on the diagnosis of localized cancer tissues, that is of course a core technology for us.
Yes.
This is what we do. We are trying to improve our current imaging technologies and also to add new applications to that, new biomarkers to that. And for that, we use collaborations like this. We have several sites with whom we have a research agreement where we can install prototypes of our scanner software. It could also be a robot, it could be a hardware device, but most often it's modifications to the current scanner software where we give access to certain sites and we ask them to use this in their current program and also report on that and write technical papers, write scientific papers, and provide us with feedback on that. And that's in the benefit of all of us, of course, to do this. The second question in your question is that you add the AI phrase to that, and that's of course a very popular topic everywhere, and maybe not so much in this project, but in a lot of projects we hear talking about AI tools. And for that it's become even more complicated. There's a lot of debate also about how do you validate the value of AI. With AI, quite often the focus is on reducing scan time and use AI to use sophisticated reconstruction techniques. But when I look at these images, the images look very crisp, but sometimes they look too crisp, and certain details from that were originally there have been AI'd out of the output image, and that's of course a danger of these AI tools, and that's why we also need to validate this very carefully. This is of course not specific for localized cancer tissues. This is one aspect of it, and I'm also working a lot with cardiologists on cardiovascular issues. But yeah, that's what I can say about this.
Okay, so if we imagine that in the future such AI tools are so robust in terms of detection, do you think that the future of the MR machine can combine with the diagnosis, with the image, and these tools for decision making? That means we can combine with this.
Yeah, that's what we see already happening. That many people are working on adding these diagnostic tools. That was already, of course, going on for more than 20 years to make computer-aided decision trees. But with the help of AI, this is going very, very fast. Okay. So there's no doubt that this will come in, and it's also needed because there's more and more people coming to the earth that needs to be diagnosed, and there's not enough people to diagnose this anymore. So also our market is asking for this. The radiologists work day and night almost to do what they can. So they are in need of diagnostic help to do this.
Okay, thank you so much, Jude. Sebastian, what are the interests to couple the, it's the same question before to Jude, the biopsy and brachytherapy of localized cancer in the same technology?
So maybe the answer is as well then similar. It could be interest that the patient who comes to the hospital for diagnostic at the same time or at the same visit receives the treatment. Of course, that is maybe not sure because at the moment we still have, as mentioned there, the biopsy. So you check the tissue, so and not only having the information via MRI. So I'm not sure whether biopsy really could be done in that fast way so that you get the feedback of the biopsy if it's the risk class of the tumor and where the tumor is located. So, but it could be, of course, an interest concept to have only a one-time visit of the patient for diagnostic and treatment. And as mentioned earlier, the patient who comes to the diagnostic, maybe the tissue and the prostate change after days or weeks. So the treatment is then based on something different. But normally what we see in brachytherapy, you have an intraoperative planning already yet. So the information you need from the tissue, you only gain at the day of the implant. So maybe that's not the major benefit. So it might be that the treatment can be really done on the same day of the visit. And that's maybe with regard to LDR, maybe that's something different with HDR, but unfortunately I'm not involved that much in HDR. So, but I think to have the treatment on the same day of the diagnostic could be an interesting concept.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian. I think we lost Claire. Claire, are you connected? Still connected? I don't see her. Maximilian,
she had to leave.
We have to leave. All right. Do you have questions here or not, Maximilian?
There are no questions in the on the platform.
In the form. Okay. So so thank you so much. Yeah, Klaus, Sebastian, Jörg, and Claire for your participation to this roundtable. I think with your feedback, yeah, we enrich our discussion, for the interest of the project outputs, and why not for large public audience interest. So we are happy to share with you the next step of demonstration. Now our next step in the first term of 2021 is to validate first the adaptive MR control of the robot through bio-inspired phantoms. Then we go after on testing on human cadavers, and after that on animals, yeah, with our partners. And we hope that in less than 1 year we can share with you all these results. And let's continue this adventure with Cobra, and under your guidance also. So we are happy to have you as an observers also, and to and your encouragement also. Thank you so much for your participation. Hope if you can rapidly, Jörg, give your conclusion word to this roundtable.
You're welcome. It's of course a pleasure to join this as an observer and to see what is possible. And yeah, looking forward to the results coming.
Thank you so much, Klaus.
Yeah, as I said before, it's I think a very good approach because it's so complex and you take care about the different details, partly the workflow, the different technical aspects. And I think for us, the cooperation will become more intense in the future when you go to the practical application and you need guide wires, etc. And maybe we can give some more input as we did in the beginning.
Thank you so much, Klaus. And Jörg?
I'm really impressed with what you have shown today. Actually, the recent meeting was only a month ago, where I already saw many of the presentations, what I also saw today. I'm really impressed. I remember the first time that I met you in Delft. It's maybe 3 years ago already. And then at that time I thought, okay, I don't know anybody of these sites. Delft University, I've never collaborated with them. With all the other sites were no people, and I thought, okay, what are they going to achieve? Such a complicated task of building a robot with so many different nationalities and all this knowledge together. But I'm really impressed with what you can show now, a real working prototype in a real MRI environment. Of course, not yet doing it in a patient, but that's I'm really impressed by what you have obtained until now. Really, congratulations with that. Thank you.
Okay.
And thanks for having me as an observer.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So Maximilian, we finished.
Thank you.
Okay. What the next? What we recommend to our visitor to switch to the other room?
Yes, you can now follow the plenary sessions or also the prize for the innovation and prevention call.
Okay. So thank you so much again, and see you later.
Thank you too. Bye bye.
Okay.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.